Our next guest is a fantasy and science fiction author who has published over 24 short stories and a novel. She is also an editor who has edited 5 anthologies of short fiction. Her latest book is called This May Go on Your Permanent Record and is available on Amazon.com right now. Go. Her novel Prohibited will be kickstarted by Silence in the Library Publishing later this month, so check that out. She and her husband live in Chicago with their 3 cats. Oh yeah, she's a cat lady too. Give a warm welcome to Kelly Swails. Yeah, look good? Height-wise?
Sure.
Happy?
Yeah.
All right.
Am I lighted properly?
You look lovely.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm going to read a chapter from my latest novel, This May Go on Your Permanent Record. It's a young adult novel set in a school for world domination. It's more common than you think. I just want to kind of lay down the background here. Sally is our protagonist, and her mom's an alcoholic. Sally has been caught stealing groceries, so she can eat. And the judge has given her the option of going to the School for Extraordinary Youth, or juvenile delinquency, or foster care, and she has wisely chosen the School for Extraordinary Youth. She is being escorted to the school by the attorney that repped her, Miss Michelle Knight. Chapter 5, The Road to Hell. As Knight backed up and drove away, the conversation with Mom swirled in my mind. It wasn't like Mom ever paid that much attention to me or anything, but still, it would have been nice if she had acted like she cared. She could have even said, "Hey, Sally, if you leave, who will make sure I don't drown in my own vomit?" Or did she realize I did that for her? By the time we hit the interstate, the cornfields flew past the window, and I was ready to push Mom out of my head. So I scrubbed my face with my hands and said, "So, the School for Extraordinary Youth." "That's where we're heading, yes," Knight said. "How do you know about it? Did you go there?" "What makes you say that?" I responded with my best, "Oh, please" face. "If this place is so secretive, they don't advertise online." "There are places other than the internet to learn about things," she said. "Whatever. Quit evading the topic. Or is that something they teach you at this place?" "Actually, yes. But I honed the ability at law school." She rubbed her bottom lip as though she had said more than she meant to. "So you did go there." I turned in my seat and looked at her, the seatbelt pressing into my hip. "What's it like?" Knight shrugged. "School." I flopped back into the seat. "Do you have to make everything so difficult?" "I swear it's not on purpose." "Tell me this, at least. Do you think I'll be behind everyone?" I said. "I've only had Algebra 1 and World History up to..." "I think you'll find the classes to be new and challenging," she said. I blinked. What's that supposed to mean? Exactly what I said. "You're not going to tell me anything, are you?" "I will tell you that you're fortunate to attend," she said. "It's quite insular." Meaning? "Meaning there aren't a whole lot of sponsored kids that attend. Most of the students are legacies, meaning they have a parent or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent that attended, usually more than one. It's not unheard of for generations of family to be alumni." Nerves gnawed at my stomach. I had been the new kid in school plenty of times, so it wasn't that. This place was expensive, and that was part of it, but it also sounded like everyone else had their admission guaranteed at birth. I'd be more of an outsider than usual. "That's comforting," I said. My voice only cracked a little. She glanced at me. "Nervous?" "A little bit." "That's good," she said. "Use that to your advantage." "You're not going to tell me not to be worried?" I said. She shook her head. "It's a tough school with a tough curriculum. Not everyone makes it through. Judge Day and I believe in you, but you're going to have to work harder. You're going to have to work hard to make it happen. Or else I'll go to juvie," I said. "Don't forget foster care. That's an option." Right, foster care. How could I have forgotten? I chewed my lip as I watched corn and soybean fields slip past the window. We didn't speak for the next 2 hours, the only noise being the tires on the pavement and the talk radio station Knight insisted she listen to. My car, my radio, she said. So much for hospitality. It was mid-afternoon, and I started to feel like a little bit like my old self. Outside, the scenery had changed from cornfields and cow pastures to rolling hills and forest. Here we are, she said, as she pulled off the highway into a 2-lane road. She had only driven for a few minutes before 2 black SUVs came out of nowhere and started following us. I checked the side mirror. Who are they? What's going on? Had I just let Knight kidnap me? Who were these people? Relax, Knight said, which pretty much confirmed my suspicions. Fat chance of that, I said as my fingers tingled. I'm about 2 seconds away from jumping ship here unless you tell me where we are and who's following us. Knight glanced at me. We are somewhere in the middle of the Shawnee National Forest, she said. People around here believe there's an old military installation that's been abandoned but is still guarded. I turned and watched the SUVs through the back window. And these are the guards. She nodded. They're security for the school. In part, they make sure no one gets on campus that doesn't belong there. They use rumor and misdirection to their advantage. Knight must have checked out because the SUVs disappeared as suddenly as they had appeared. We passed the next several moments in silence as she turned onto a narrow paved road, and then after that, onto a gravel one. You weren't kidding when you said this place was in the middle of nowhere, I said, as we bounced along. Knight drove as though trying to hit every pothole, so I kept one hand on the roof and the other on the door handle to steady myself. The tires kicked up so much dust I couldn't see outside the side windows. It's beneficial, she said. After a few hard bumps, she slowed down and stopped between 2 trees. There wasn't anything blocking the path, but she just sat there with the engine idling. What's wrong? I said as I searched all around us. Nothing. As she spoke, I spotted it. A tree branch moved, but it had nothing to do with the wind. I squinted, but I couldn't tell if the branch was real or fake. I would bet money it was on hinges, though. A small black dot was at the base of the branch, a lens. Should I smile for the camera? That won't be necessary. The branch moved again, this time in an up and down motion, and she drove on. We crested a big hill, passing through a copse of trees, and drove into a huge clearing. I gasped in spite of myself. The School for Extraordinary Youth wasn't just one building with a baseball diamond or soccer field behind it. There was a whole campus tucked away behind the tree line. Old, stately brick buildings sat around a large rectangle of grass crisscrossed by sidewalks. A huge parking lot sat on the far side of all the buildings. The road became paved as we curved around campus. The place looked old yet formidable, warm yet unforgiving. So, this is it, huh? I said. I clutched my hands together in my lap. Try and relax. You're going to do well here as long as you work hard. She parked the car behind a building marked MacArthur Hall. Hadn't he been a general? The building had a large concrete marker on the side that said 1870, which must have been the year it was built. The heat slammed into me as soon as I opened the car door. Sweat beaded up on my forehead as I followed Knight inside a small unmarked door in the back of MacArthur. I sighed as the air conditioning hit my skin. We climbed some old yet sturdy wooden stairs until we got to the 3rd floor. Knight walked down the hall with purpose, and I had to scurry to keep up. After a few moments, she stopped at a door and knocked 3 times. A man opened it and smiled. Michelle, how wonderful to see you. He stuck out his hand. He looked like a kindly grandpa that climbed mountains in his spare time. Ms. Knight shook hands with him before giving me a hug. Dean Weingarten, it's been too long. How are things? Taking the legal world by storm? Of course, Knight said. Wouldn't have it any other way. I'd expect nothing less from you. Dean Weingarten said. He opened the door wider and motioned us inside. Come in, come in. I gave the place a once-over as I followed Knight inside. We appeared to be in a small library of sorts. Shelves lined the walls, all of them filled with books and globes and bookends. A few plants hung in front of the windows, and an aerial picture of an island floated on the computer screen in the nearby desk. This must be Sally, Weingarten said. He turned his gaze to me, and it was so intense, I took a step back. Hi. Weingarten pursed his lips. Teresa Day recommends you very highly. So does Michelle, he said. He looked at me even harder, if that was possible, and then his features softened. Welcome to the School for Extraordinary Youth. I trust you'll find enough challenges here to keep you out of trouble. I'm sure she will, Knight said. She motioned with her hand. Do you have... Oh, yes, of course. He moved to a desk and pulled an envelope from the drawer. I had Martha squeeze her into some classes. Most of the popular freshman ones were full, of course, but she'll have time next semester to work them in. Her dorm assignment is in there as well. He looked at me. The other freshmen got their packets 2 weeks ago, but as they say, life isn't always fair. She'll be fine, Knight said. Thanks so much for working her in on such short notice. Weingarten waved his hand. It was really no trouble, considering her sponsor. Also, we had a few dropouts and that made it easier. He sighed. Some children come here thinking they know what they want, and 2 days in they decide differently. You know how it is. I do, Knight said. Educational Darwinism. She caught my eye and gestured at the door. We won't take any more of your time. My feet were rooted to the ground. You know who's paying my way? I asked the dean. Sally, Knight said, a hard warning tone to her words. Weingarten said, Of course. Who is it? I blurted. I have explicit instructions not to tell you. I swallowed. I had a hard time believing Weingarten would take orders from anyone, so whoever it was, they had pull. Who were they and what did they want with me? Let's go, Knight said. I nodded and let her lead me out the door and down the stairs we had come up. He seems nice, I said, once I had found my voice. He's once you graduate, Knight said, but for now you don't want to get on his bad side. Good tip. Any advice on how I should do that? Sure, Knight said, but where's the fun in that? She opened the outside door, and once again the heat blasted me in the face. We stood on the sidewalk as she opened the envelope. She glanced inside before pulling out a pink slip of paper. Patton, good place. Another general, I said. Did he and MacArthur both go here? Knight smiled but didn't answer. It's this building, she pointed next door. Living next to the faculty means it's harder to get into trouble. She smiled kindly. I'm sure you'll find a way to manage. Can hardly wait, I said. The heat was making me grouchy. Well, that and knowing that everyone but me who was pulling the strings of my life. She peered into the envelope. Looks like the induction ceremony is tonight and classes start tomorrow. She said, You chose the right time to rob a store. I ignored the dig and said, School hasn't even started yet and people have dropped out? I told you it was tough. My stomach clenched. Great. I bet it was even tougher when failure wasn't an option. Your room is 307, she said as she handed me the envelope. I'll help you get your stuff inside and I'll be on my way. I can get it, I said. Knight didn't respond as she opened the back of her SUV. I nibbled on a nail as I watched her grab my bag from the back. Part of me wanted to make a big deal about her helping me. I had taken care of myself for so long it felt weird to have a parent for the day, but I appreciated the help. We walked into a small round vestibule that surrounded a staircase. A few girls sat cross-legged on the floor off to one side, a card game laid out between them. Their clothes were new and fit them perfectly, as if they'd been sewn for them. As far as I knew, they had been. One of them wore a thin gold chain around her left wrist, and I would bet money she didn't have to steal it or earn the money to buy it. Earlier, I had thought the clothes Knight had gotten for me for court were great, but even they looked shabby at this place. I felt like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. They looked up as we entered, and the girl with the bracelet smiled. Hi, she said before turning back to her game. She was pretty, with long blonde hair and bright green eyes. The girl she played with had short hair styled in a mohawk, lots of earrings, and dark eyeliner. They could have been models for a reform school's before and after picture. Hi, I said as I followed Knight up the stairs. Once we were out of earshot, I whispered, Why were they playing cards there? Wouldn't they be more comfortable in their rooms? Probably, she said, but my guess is they're sizing up any late arrivals. Perfect, I said as I rolled my eyes. Hopefully I had made a decent first impression. Patton Hall was a lot like MacArthur, at least as far as the back staircase went. The walls were white with dark wainscoting, the stairs were dark wood, and while everything was in great shape, the place had an old building vibe about it. When was this place built? I said as she climbed the stairs. My words echoed up the stairwell. The school or the building? Both, either. The school itself started in the late 1700s, she said. It's based on a school out east that was founded by Jefferson. SEY's founders were professors at that school, but didn't like the idea that there wasn't an option for children in the newer states. Ninian Edwards was the guy who actually founded this place. Ever hear of him? No, I said. I take it he was a pioneer. You have no idea, Knight said. The original buildings, I think there were 3, burned down in the mid-1800s. Alumni donated money to rebuild, and most of the buildings from here now are from that time. Rich alumni, I said, as I studied the elaborate railings. Most of us are, she said. She wasn't bragging, just stating a fact. She stopped on the 3rd floor landing and stood in front of a wooden door with an ornate metal number 3 on it. Here's the place. Ready? I licked my lips and nodded. My palms were damp, but I told myself it was from the heat. Yeah. She opened the door, and I followed her inside the hallway. Again, the walls were white with dark wood wainscoting. The floors had carpet with an intricate design, and all the doors to the rooms were dark wood. The place felt rich and imposing and historic. I quaked. Did I really belong here? Whether I did or not, there was no going back now. I followed Knight to room 307. She opened the door and said, "Here's your new home for the next 9 months." I walked inside and smiled. It was easily 3 times the size of my room at home. All of the surfaces gleamed as though they had just been cleaned and polished. It also looked like 2 halves of a mirror image with a bed, desk, shelf, and wardrobe on either side. Someone had already claimed the right side because a pink and purple flowered bedspread covered the bed. The other bed had white sheets and a generic brown blanket. I didn't think to bring sheets and stuff, I said. Embarrassed I didn't have anything, but at the same time glad. The ones I had at home wouldn't belong anywhere near here. Don't worry, she said. I've had supplies sent. She put my bag on the bed and looked around as though filling out a mental checklist. Once again, I wished that Knight would tell me who was footing this bill, but this time I had the good sense not to ask. She slapped her hands together. "Looks like you're all set," she said. I guess so. She needed to leave, but I wished she wouldn't. I wanted her to stay and give me a tour of the campus and introduce me to my teachers and all that. I wanted her to do the things my mom had never done. Instead, I took deep breaths. "I'll be in touch," she said, "and Weingarten will keep us appraised of your progress." My stomach clenched. Right. "You're going to be fine, Sally. You're a fighter." Her words calmed me. Okay. She nodded once, looked around, and left, closing the door behind her. I took a deep breath, held it, and sat on the bed. Laughter filtered in from outside through the open window. I tossed the envelope onto the unclaimed desk and tapped a foot. After a few moments, I put my clothes in the wardrobe and shoved the empty bag in the back corner of its bottom shelf. Once my laptop was on the desk, I was officially unpacked. I sat on the bed and glanced at the door. Apparently a welcoming committee didn't come around. I grabbed the envelope and dumped its contents onto the bed. The pink housing slip fluttered to the ground as I spread everything out. There were a few colorful brochures and a small book about the history of the school, and my class schedule. 8 o'clock to 8:45. There's no U in ethics. 9 o'clock to 9:45. Monologues for the masses. 10 o'clock to 10:45. Military maneuvers. 11 o'clock to 11:45. Know your nemesis. Noon to 1 o'clock. Lunch. 1 o'clock to 1:45. Money laundering 1. Hiding money from your parents. 2 to 2:45. The art of war for the 21st century. 3 to 3:45. Fun with chemical warfare. My jaw dropped as I read over the schedule a few times. Monologues for the masses. Fun with chemical warfare. I turned over the page, but the back was blank. This had to be some kind of joke. I grabbed one of the brochures. Hitler's not a role model. Building your career in world domination. I dropped the brochure and the schedule in the bed. I didn't know what I had expected, but it wasn't this. This wasn't just a tough school with challenging classes. This was insane. The door slammed open and a short girl burst into the room. She wore a pair of gym shorts and looked panicked. "What are you doing?" she said. "We have to be on the lawn in 5 minutes. Induction." She glanced at me, hesitated, then smoothed her hair. "What?" I said. She shook her head and said, "Nothing," before running from the room. I stared at the closed door. It looked like I was about to dive into the deep end.